Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to wake the world up to what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission is a good and longtime fellow healer friend, Linda Aileen Miller. And she is the author of a new book out called He, Him, His, The Imposter Was Real. Welcome, Linda. How you doing today?
I'm well, Laura. Thank you. How are you?
Doing great. You guys, I'm excited to have this conversation. Linda Aileen Miller is an author, poet, certified birth doula, myofascial release therapist who biohacks cellular memories with authentic listening, nutrition, and gentle touch. She has 25 years of experience holding space for life, love, and loss. Linda's daytime gig focuses on healing PTSD, combined with Reiki to offer limitless possibilities beyond trauma. Writing weaves the web. And I agree with that. Of course, you know, I'm a little bit of a writing geek. All right, listen. So I know from a personal experience with being scammed that it's one of the most horrible feelings ever. And you were scammed in a pretty intense way. Give us the summary of what happened.
The Reader's Digest version. A
Yeah.
friend encouraged me, dear friend Bev encouraged me to join Instagram. I did that. I chose to follow people that I knew and some that I didn't. Some that I had brushed paths with and wanted to know more about. And one of those persons sent me a private message and said, I bet you're surprised to hear from me. And that was the beginning, because I believed that that person was the real person who is a well-known singer-songwriter, and he was responding to my follow request. It went from there to WhatsApp for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And he was not him.
And he was not him. And it wasn't unusual for you to be in the world of singer-songwriters, right? It's not like you're a newbie to that world.
No, it's not new to me at all. My brother was a musician growing up, so I was surrounded, locally and nationally with very well-known entertainers. I dated a few, and then my son became a part of that world as well as a production manager. So all the pieces really just fell perfectly into place because it made sense. The things that he said were very orchestrated, I guess, to play into, my life experience. It was clear in retrospect that he was a good reader. He had clearly looked at my Facebook page and the person he was impersonating, and copied and pasted a lot of information. And I wanted to believe it because it would be a perfect last chapter to my life. At 75, when someone from the world that you love says you are the woman of my dreams, it's like, yeah, sign me up.
I don't
I
blame
wanted
you.
to believe it. Yeah, I wanted to believe it. It was a interesting 6 weeks until it wasn't.
Which, is listening to you as part of the, I can feel it in my heart. It's part of the heartbreak of this because it's so evil, it's so manipulative, it's so sad because they're playing on your beautiful soul.
Mm.
And listen, I know that one reason you wrote this book was to spread awareness. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so tell me a little bit more about what you want people to know today. And I'm going to show you guys the book while Linda's talking about that.
I think the most important thing that I want people to know is to trust your gut. And there is such a huge, huge difference between our brain gut and our heart and our gut. That little voice inside of us that our mutual friend Shelley Astoff in India calls the knower. There's the knower knows the truth, and no matter how much I wanted, I wanted to believe, and I say it in the book, I wanted to believe it was real. You know, I'm not casting stones. I had a part in this dance. I wanted to believe it was real, and my gut, my knower, kept saying, it was a red flag or a little flag. And then it was like, well, it kind of makes sense. You know, there was that little tweak that kept pulling me back.
So the book is amazing for a lot of reasons. And you take us on this bit of a roller coaster ride and journey. And man, we're sucked into the story of this. Of course, nobody wants to be scammed. Reading a story of somebody who was kind of already knowing that that was the case is rough. You are so vulnerable in this book. And I thank you for that, because it's going to help your readers really understand that they're okay if this happened to them too. Like, and there are people that can talk to them about it. And we need to drop the shame quickly if we can, and just reach in for the support. But one of the other things I love, I can't help myself to love the poetry in this book. You are an author and a poet. And I wonder if you would just give us a little taste of one of the beautiful poems in your book.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. Yeah. At one point, we planned to do a virtual dinner. So the day arrived, setting up my dining room table with my finest china, crystal, and silverware, symbolically not putting silver at his place setting since he wasn't actually going to be there. Choosing a new dress, did my hair, makeup, and of course, donned my favorite jewelry. After 7 months of COVID, leggings and jeans and t-shirts, I felt really pretty and excited. Dinner with him, I thought, albeit long distance. Your empty plate awaits alone. The table looks lovely, and I have finally decided what I'm wearing. Women are such funny creatures. My dress doesn't match my china. Oh well, I love both, so it is what it is. I found the greatest glass tucked in the back amongst the crystal. Embrace the moment, traveling the world one glass of wine at a time, embossed across the interior. Yeah, I know. Crazy, right? It's pandemic dining, people. Work with me. Humans are hungry, humans are sick, humans are dying at a rapid rate. I'm feeling it all. For tonight, I'm having dinner with him in my mind via the web. Let this crazy world go away for at least a few hours today. We loved the dinner date so much, we planned another 4 days later.
I give you some snaps for that. Thank you for reading that. And there's
Thank you.
there are a lot of poems in the book. I don't know if you remember how many, but it's full of beautiful poems, along with the story. So I know your readers are going to enjoy that piece. And because those poems come from your heart and soul, I love a book that includes that, because it's also just a vulnerable piece about who
I-
you are.
Thank you, Laura. I think at one point, I think there are 70 pages of poems in the 210 pages of the book, maybe
Yeah.
7. There are a lot, because that was how we communicated. That was how he hooked me in, by telling me how much he loved my poetry on Instagram. So of course, tell a poet, tell a singer-songwriter you love their whatever they're doing. There's like, oh, the hook is set. And just speaking of and doing that, my editor made me aware of the fact that what actually happened, even though I had said from the beginning, stalker scammer, because that was how it felt, and that's what it was. Evidently, the term catfishing is also a part of what it is, and I think that's a really important thing for your audience to be aware of. It's a very a lot of people are very, very vulnerable to that right now, because these evil people who do this scamming take on the persona of someone else, refuse to meet in person, and want to communicate mostly on WhatsApp because of the end-to-end encryption. And so they call it catfishing. And she said to me, "You were catfished." And I said, "Catfished? What is that?" And it's just, they hook people in with this whole. I've been told since all this that there are like warehouses of people with computers lined up side by side doing this all day long, all around the world. And you know,
Yeah.
people are
Wow.
losing their life savings, and they're losing, their heart and their soul, and many with no tools on how to get it back. And so I'm hoping that this book will stop some of that, and will also give people an awareness of what to look for, what the flags look like.
Yes, and you're giving some resources in there, and you're helping us understand what those are. And that's great that thank you for talking about the catfishing. That was like the next question for you, was like, you talked about the knower, you talked about really trusting your intuition, and the breakdown there when you really wanted this to be true. And it always gets back to trusting the intuition. But I was going to say, what else do you want people to know? So the catfishing, it's good to know the terms. The terms have also changed, and there's different ones. And it's like, we don't even know what we're talking about here unless we really hear it and are educated. But
Mhm.
are there any of the other flags that you talk about that you want to mention today? Any
I
big
think
ones?
I think one of the biggest in retrospect, because without giving away the book, one of the one of the things that I did, when everything turned south, when I really, like being hit by a 2x4, realized that he was not him. One of the things is stuck in my throat still. Interesting. One of the things that I looked back over my shoulder and went, what was the flag that I really ignored the most? His grammar was different than ours. There were spaces where some of the terms he used were, just a little bit off. And I thought, well, maybe he's doing voice to text. I never saw his face. That's a real big clue. If someone refuses to meet in person or to even do a virtual or do a phone call. Now, in the very beginning stages, some of that made sense to me because I thought if he, the imposter, was him, the real person, he's a well-known entertainer, and I could understand that he wouldn't just put his face out there, or he wouldn't, do face-to-face within the first couple of weeks with someone. And if someone's refusing to be up close and personal, think about it real hard. In this situation, the dots kind of lined up because it made sense, because I thought he was him. But if you're getting messages from someone that refuses to be visible, or someone whose language is, I'm not talking, perfect language. I mean, I use slang, you use slang. It's not that kind of thing. It was just, I wish I had it in front of me right now. I don't have it, but it's like, one thing I said something about venues, and venues is a very common term for those of us that do performance in any capacity. And he questioned that term. And he said, venues, ? And I went, yeah, in Florida, there's Jacksonville, and then there's Melbourne, and there's Sarasota, and there's Stewart. And I named off, 5 or 6 places that he could easily, come perform at once the world opened back up again. And I said venues, and he didn't get it. And I thought, that's odd. That's really odd. And then I just was like,
Yeah.
So
that's I think a pretty big one. I think I would like to add the language that you see typed is poor English sometimes, and it's very subtle, occasionally very subtle, so that you think, oh, just a little mistype or whatever. But usually when you read it, if they're typing to you, you'll know. And then that one obviously is a little bit more obvious. So I really like to give people awareness of the specific examples. So thank you, because sometimes when you're in it, you're not completely seeing clearly, hearing clearly. And if you've heard the story, if you've heard the examples, if you've read Linda's book about the red flags, you're gonna have it in your awareness when it happens to you. So you will not be completely blind, deaf and dumb to it, right? So I appreciate you and this book for those reasons. I believe that a lot of people have been through small, medium, and large kinds of scams before. We all have interesting stories, but we really need to shut this down. And it's about awareness, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny, Laura, because it was so personal, and because I was very raw, and my heart and my brain, the work of Joel, I just want to throw out a Jill Bolt Taylor and Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Their work was really, really helpful in my own healing and helping me understand how it happened, how my heart was doing one thing and my brain was doing something else. And that's also what it made it difficult to heal. And I spoke with someone just last week who went through this experience 20 years ago, and she's still carrying so much shame and so much guilt. And every single time I would come to a point in the writing of this that I'd think, I can't do this. I can't share this, and I put it to the side, and within hours, someone would cross my path who had been through it, who had taken money out of savings and gone to Office Depot and bought thousands of dollars of gift cards and mailed them overseas. Another myofascial therapist that you and I both know did that to purchase a car and never saw the car. It was a lesser scam, but scam nonetheless. And so if someone is asking you to buy gift cards to send to them, be very wary. If someone is, even when he talked about coming for the weekend, he did say, well, there'll be expenses involved. And I thought, that's weird. If this person is that person, he would never ask a lady
Right.
for expense,
Well,
So
plus
that's
he
when it
could
started
afford
to-
it.
Yeah.
Anyway, he should have been able to afford it anyway. So like, forget asking, like, come on, man. Yeah,
Excuse me, but do you know who you're talking to?
exactly. Yeah, good flags. Okay, you guys, so I'm going to share the book picture with you one more time, and I will ask you, Linda, so aside from this beautiful book, he, him, his, the imposter was real. I love the words at the top too. I opened my heart to a scammer. Thank God it wasn't my bank account. What else do you have going on aside from the book that you want to share with everybody?
Oh my goodness. What else do I have going on? This book has consumed, it's actually been 2 years. It was September 21st, 2020, when it all began. And so that's why the release date was so important to me. And this has been my world. What else do I have going on? I have, as a birth doula, I have a baby due in November 23rd. I'm meeting with the mom again Friday. And I love that part of my world. And I meet with mom and dad for an hour every 2 weeks for 3-4 months prior to the birth. And mom goes in armed and dangerous, knowing what she wants for herself and her baby. So I love that part. I have a stack this big on my table of poetry from the pandemic that is not related to this book. And I'm trying to decide if I've like totally lost my mind to even think about publishing it after, going through my own first adventure on Amazon, which I thought, oh my gosh. and I did it. And I appreciate your help with that. Thank you very much.
Yes, of course. Pandemic poetry. Gosh, I think we need to collaborate with the world on that one, right? It's going to be a thick book.
It is to be a thick book.
Oh,
It's yeah.
yes.
So that's it. That and raising my almost 3-year-old Siberian Husky that I rescued after the scam. One of the poems that came from that was "Get a Badass Dog," and I did. She rescued me. I rescued her, and she's wonderful. I have 2 grandchildren that I adore that are little men in the making. That's about it.
Beautiful. All right. So, any last words today for the audience about this topic?
If you have been through it, let go of the guilt, let go of the shame, and give yourself permission to heal. Tell someone. Carrying it around isn't going to help. It happens to 5.8 billion people around the world in 2021. 5.8 billion people. Doesn't mean you're stupid. Doesn't mean anything except for that you are one of the people that swallowed the hook. Let it go and find a way to heal. One of the things that I'm doing, I ordered some proof copies of the book. This one you'll see says not for resale across the top. One of the things I'm doing with those proof copies is taking them to our local police department for them to be able to share with anybody that goes through this. So they have a foundation, they have something to start their healing process with. And just know it gets better. know it, you can, I still get a little knot in my throat when I hear the music connected from the person who they were scamming. And I think that's part of, how involved the brain and how intertwined the brain and the heart are. But give yourself permission to ask for help and trust your gut.
I like it. Linda, thank you so much for what you're doing in the world in general with this book. And thanks for being here today to share it with everyone.
Thank you. It was fun, as always.
All right, you guys, check out the show notes because I have Linda hooked up with her websites down below. We're going to put the Amazon link to the book there for you as well. Grab your copy. Maybe, I know, not maybe, I know either it's you or you know someone. So, grab a couple of copies as gifts, put them in waiting rooms, spread the awareness about this topic. And everything's down there for you to click on and connect with. And I challenge you to have a little exploration on Linda's websites because she's actually up to a lot of awesomeness, some of which she didn't even have time to tell you today. So go look at her other books, poetry, and all of the beautiful things that she's done. And to my brave healers, if you're ready to share your message out loud in the world in a bigger way, maybe write your book and build your legacy, come find me at bravehealer.com. Lastly today, everybody, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. It's time to be brave. See you next time, everyone. Thank you, Linda.
Thanks, Laura. Bye-bye.